Today I want to talk about this camera right here. This is the Sony ZV-E1, and I've been using this behind the scenes to film all my YouTube videos. I had this camera for several months now, working in the background for me, filming A-roll, B-roll, photographing thumbnails, making social media content, Instagram, Reels, TikToks, and all that. And I want to share my experience now that I've been using this on a long-term basis. It's almost a year now. I used to own the Sony A7S III, and I really like that camera, but I always felt that was a bit bulky for me. I really like the video quality coming from that camera, and then Sony announced the Sony ZV-E1, and it has the same sensor as the A7S III, but for about $1,000 less. So that piqued my interest, and then I bought it. Let's start with the first reason why I picked up this camera. It's because of its size. This camera is freaking tiny compared to the Sony A7 IV and the Sony A7S III. It just feels like a bare bones Sony A7S III. Now, this eliminated the bulk that was on the Sony A7S III, and I do appreciate that. I feel that the Sony A7S III is more for the serious users, and for me, I'm a photographer and like a content creator. I don't get enough video gigs to warrant a capable camera of that stature and size. And I also remember packing the Sony A7S III for trips to be very tedious because I would pack more than one camera system, and that bulkiness did take up a lot more space. With the Sony A7S III, it just feels like a chore trying to set everything up. But with this camera right here, the Sony ZV-E1, it doesn't feel like a chore. It feels really good to just set everything up. And now, when I do pack multiple cameras in a bag, the bulk has been significantly reduced, and I can fit more stuff in, and it weighs less as well. Now, the buttons and layouts are a bit different from what I am used to and accustomed to from the A7 IV and the A7S III. This camera is made to be more user-friendly. The back LCD screen is also touch-enabled, and there is an internal three-way mic capsule, and I don't use it at all. But it's there if you guys are interested in vlogging without no mic setup. Besides that, it has a multi-interface shoe mount, and you can use it to power up this Sony wireless mic, and it's going to give you a nice crisp sound. Now, this camera also has image stabilization, but I've always found Sony stabilization to be alright. It's not as good as something like the Panasonic Lumix S5. Now, that camera has great stabilization. Let's go into the image quality. So you're going to get the same video quality as something like the Sony A7S III and the Sony FX3. So this is some professional looking footage that you are getting in this tiny little package right here. The 4K 24 looks really good, crispy looking footage. The colors on the Sony for video is something that I don't ever have a problem with. It shoots 10-bit 422, it can do 4K 60 and 4K 120 if you have the firmware upgrade. But there is something else that the Sony ZV-E1 possesses that is not in the likes of the A7S III and the FX3, and that is the new AI chipset. Now, this just makes the autofocusing feel a bit smarter, stickier. The autofocus has been great and reliable, and it does help while filming YouTube. With something that is this small, there has to be some sort of compromise. For starter, when I film 4K 60 for a half an hour in short bursts, this camera did get a bit warm. That's going to be the same for like filming my talking head A-roll for over an hour. It does get a bit warm as well. Again, it's in a smaller body, less heat dissipation, and this is something that I didn't have to deal with when I was using the A7S III. But saying that, it's never shut down on me because of overheating or anything like that. Another thing that I don't like about this camera is there's only one memory card slot. Now, given the fact that this camera can film different frame rates, different codecs, I wish this camera would have come with 2 memory card slots instead of 1, and make one of that card slot, take CF Express Type A memory. It's because whenever I film my YouTube videos, I do fill up the memory card real quick, and instead of stopping and switching on memory cards, which disrupts the flow of the filming and all that, I'd rather just have a second memory card slot inside to help transfer some of that spillage over. And other than that, I have to say that I really enjoy this camera for my video creation needs. It's been good so far. There's no hiccups, and I have almost had this camera for a year now. Now, this has been my use case for the Sony ZV-E1, and I think it's the best YouTube camera you can get if you want something that's a bit more affordable, that has high quality video, reliable autofocus. You can have it all in this small, tiny package, which is freaking amazing. Now, if you're interested in this camera, I'll leave the link down below. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. What do you guys think of the Sony ZV-E1? Consider subscribing for more content like this, and thanks so much.